Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am joined, before I start, it's 11:05. As far as I'm aware, Spurs haven't done anything to embarrass ourselves today. We haven't done anything that causes huge debate. Perchy, how are you, mate? You well?
I'm good. I'm good. We as I said, it's 2 days left until we can forget about this absolute shambolic season. So we're nearly there.
Yeah, but just think about all the moaning we're going to do over the summer. So,
I
come
can't
on,
wait for it.
it's going to be good fun. And Mr. Ashmatic is in the house from South. You boys, how are you, sir? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm a bit better today, man. Yesterday was a bit sore, but
Yeah.
we move, man. We move.
We do. Listen, one thing that can never be said about this club, guys, is that they don't give any YouTubers anything to discuss. So, listen, it could be worse. We could be Man City, and all we're doing is debating whether or not Foden or Grealish should start down the left-hand side. We're Spurs. Look, I wanted to start. Ash, I'll come to you, mate. I don't know whether it was good timing, bad timing, whatever timing you want to call it, and ignore the dog. Jose coming out yesterday, giving it the whole, there's only been one club that I've not felt the connection with. There's one club that I don't really care about, and it was Levy. He's like Mr. Levy's Tottenham. Is that a good thing for what's happening at the moment in terms of making fans realise, or is it just damaging our reputation in Europe further and further?
Both, to be fair. Like for those that maybe weren't sure, maybe on the fence, it's like more people that were working at the club are coming out and saying, adding their 2 pence. To be fair, obviously it didn't go well for him because obviously he's a bit bitter that he got sacked before a cup final, but everywhere else he's won something. But at the same time, when he said Mr. Levy's club after everything that's happened, the timing is spot on. Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of just sums up the mood of the fans, and I feel like maybe he was saying it for the fans. He might feel sorry for us. I don't know. So he basically was like, "Guys, I know what you're going through. I'm at Roma right now, and things couldn't be much better. Like he's seen night and day between the two of us, and I think he's saying, look, guys, look, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough ride for you guys. But damage limitation. I don't know. Like it's gonna be hard. I assume that these management staff people, they all talk. People behind the scenes talk, and so managers looking at our club, directors of football looking at our club, might be deterred. And you heard with Nagelsmann when he was coming in, he was going to do his due diligence. I mean, whenever you ever heard a manager talk about doing their due diligence before coming to a club, like, do you know what I mean? Something must be going around in their WhatsApp groups, or I know agents talk a lot as well. So
someone said this to me yesterday, Ash. Someone said, "Do you reckon there's like a managers WhatsApp group going around, and like someone's putting their guys? Listen, just quickly." Spurs have approached me, and the first message has come back going, "Dude, do not do that." That honestly, and then Jose just jumps in with a crying face emoji, and
like Savva, it's a bit like have you seen that film Air? It's out on Amazon Prime.
No.
Basically, but it's like the agents, they're all trying to approach Michael Jordan when he's 18 as a kid, and obviously Matt Damon plays one of the agents who works for Nike. And he's like, Michael Jordan wants to sign to Adidas and he wants to sign to Converse. But he turns up, Matt Damon's Nike agent, he turns up his door and he goes, don't sign with them. Basically, when you go into the room, they're going to be German, they're going to say this, they're going to say that, they're going to offer you this, they're going to offer you that. And he's talking to the mum. And he goes, when they offer you this is what you meant to say. So I could just imagine someone doing the same thing one of the directors of football, one of the managers, in an interview at Tottenham Way, at Tottenham Hotspurs or whatever, and Levy comes out and he says these certain things, and they're saying, look, he's going to say this, he's going to say that, because obviously Levy's quite good when it comes to finessing, because he's managed to somehow get Mourinho in, he somehow managed to get Conte in, but then Conte obviously pulled it down from early and said, listen, it doesn't matter, who comes in. It doesn't matter. 20 years. Why?
Yeah.
That still hurts me right now. Why?
It's bad. It's bad. I mean, Perchy, when you look at it, I mean, Jose, love him, hate him, find him comical, whatever you want to say about him. The guy is one of the greatest managers that has ever managed in football, factually, statistically, whichever way we want to look at it, right? He's about to play in yet another European final with it's a good Roma team. I don't think it's special. It's a good Roma team. Does Jose's story over the last 2 years epitomise Spurs' last 23 years? And what I mean by that is people come to Spurs and they're terrible and they're dinosaurs and they can't play football. Then all of a sudden he goes to Roma, a team that have never won a European competition in their history, wins one in year one, and now is in a second in year two with the chance to make the Champions League.
Well, I mean, it's no secret I wasn't a big fan of Jose, more because of his Chelsea links. However, you look at what, and you hit the nail on the head with the Roma link situation. Roma, in a sense, are very much epitomised very much this. We're like the Spurs, we're like the Roma of England in a sense. Roma don't win much, very rarely win anything. I mean, their biggest success was keeping Francesco Totti. Let's just be honest. Let's be honest. When we all identified with Roma when we grew up was Totti. He was synonymous of Roma, but it was never about on-field success, really. And you could argue that's very similar to Tottenham. And Jose's come in there and he sprinkled a little bit. He hasn't gone out and spent loads of money, by the way. Let's be honest. I mean, he's brought in a handful of players. He brought in a Chelsea reject in Tammy Abraham and has got him on fire over there. He brought in a Dybala on a free. There's a few other names I could throw into that. Brought in his school
Matic, Wijnaldum. He's brought in players like the guy's name escapes me. I think he played in the Bodo Glimt team that beat Roma about 5-1 or whatever it was. Do you remember they lost that really embarrassing game? And then they bought one of the guys that played in that game. But yeah, no, to your point, it's not like he's gone out and bought world superstars, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And you look at it and go, we need to, as a fan base, by the way, this is more of a direct change, just changing it for a second, but look at what Roma are doing. Spurs need to be on that business, on that model. We talk about we need to win something, but then on the other hand, we've got fans going, but I'd rather be in the Champions League. For me, we're a Conference League level. We may not, I don't even think we're at that level at the moment, but we can't be sitting there going, the Conference League is beneath us. What planet are you people from? I saw it when we were in there before and we were going, I just want to be out of it. We don't win anything as a club. Look at Roma as an absolute beautiful example of where trophies have elevated the football club. Let's be frank and honest. I think they're already, I'm not sure where they are in the league, but if they win that, they're automatically in the Champions League. So Jose Mourinho over 2 seasons, by the way, has taken a team that's won nothing to win them 2 Euro. Let's just say hypothetically they win.
Yeah,
2 European trophies and back into the Champions League on season 3. Like I think we have to be very thoughtful on that and going, why are we so, for a fan base for a club that doesn't win anything, we've got a fan base that doesn't really actually want to win, because I hear all the Conference League is Tim Pot. The Europa League is a B-Tech Champions League. Well, let's be frank and honest. It's better than what we got at the moment.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. Ash, I'll bring you in here in 1 second. That for me, not wanting the Conference League, Perchy, is nothing to do with belittling that competition.
Oh, no, of course. No, that's a totally different conversation.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. But I just want to put it out there. The reason I don't want European football is I feel we need to, we got to build a team.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that as well.
Just quickly, yes, Solbakken was the player they bought. Interesting view here from Kevin saying, look, sometimes we can't just always blame Levy for everything. If Feyenoord have an unreasonable buyout clause, we can't just bend over and allow them to take the mick. Slot is not worth 15 million. Ash, to this point, if we're going to look at Slot, I don't think I think the emotions that were running high yesterday in the Spurs fan base, it's not so much that it's Arnie Slot, right? It's that it's yet another example of, hey, this is the guy we want. We haven't been able to make it happen. And if we apply this theory below to any manager that we want, are we literally just going to say that no manager's worth 15 million? For example, like why is he not worth 15 million if he was going to come in and possibly build a young, exciting team?
Yeah, I think it's like the longevity, 15 million outlay over what? If he's going to sign a contract of 3 to 4 years, then that's what, 5 million a year. Do you know what I mean? And for me as well, if you buy Rodon for 15 million, I mean, surely Slot's worth 15 million, or Emerson Chicken Royale's 25 million. I mean, it's 10 million more. I mean, the examples that could go on. So I understand where people are saying, they're trying to say like Slot, might have played us, but he said he wanted to come. The links that I saw is that he wanted to come to the Premier League. That was the narrative. And I think that's the reason why I got so like disheartened by it, because I kind of invested, silly me, right? Yeah,
silly us.
Yeah, I'll join that club, man. I got actually excited for Arnie Slot coming, by the way.
Yeah, I just saw like from what we were being like defensive, sitting behind the ball, to being complete opposite, like Bielsa, like in front of the ball, like 7 players in attack. Traditional 4-2-3-1, like cams, 2 cams at that. At times. Not necessarily using the wing backs, actually using wingers to actually create balls. It just sounded like my type of football. And he's Dutch. It just reminds me of Martin Jol. He just seemed so calm. He was a gentleman. So many boxes were just getting ticked. Then I thought transfer market. I was looking at certain players because I thought, all right, if we're going to have players to work in the system, then my mind just going 24, like...
Yeah.
I'm just getting mad gas. And I said, that's why it hurt so much. And so then when I saw Levy was like haggling, because he's just known to haggle. Like, it's just in my head, it just always goes back to the narrative. Why are you so tight when it comes to things that we really want as a fan base? Certain players we really want, so close. I know it's rumors a lot of the time, but you just look at, like you said, Romo, Wijnaldum. Wasn't he linked with us? Like, imagine having Wijnaldum instead of Sissoko. How much different that could have been for a double pivot.
Do you get the feeling, Ash? This guy, Levy, could go into the pound shop and try and negotiate to get the product down to 75p. Do you know what I mean? It's like, somebody's made a really good point here, Ash, that, again, look at this. Mark, big up Mark, has said, don't forget his wages were about a third of Conte's. So... Even if, look, I don't know. I don't know if the rumors are true about the payout. Slot saying he didn't even speak to us. And you know how this world works. But if it was about 15 million, first of all, the wages would be lower. And the one thing I will say for Daniel Levy, even after I've just cussed him, the one thing I will say is getting managers in, he's never skimped on. He's never been shy in terms of putting his hand in his pocket for... for a Redknapp, for an AVB, for a Conte, for a Jose. It's more the player side, Ash, isn't it? So I can't see that would have been a stumbling block.
That's why it shocked me so much. And so now I'm thinking, if he doesn't want to pay out for him, clearly he doesn't rate him. So why invest? And you've doing people doing your due diligence on you. You would have thought they were doing their due diligence on them. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Like he would have done his homework and thought, like, if you're getting that far into negotiations, that they would have been like invested and think this is the plan we're gonna go for forward. We're gonna go with this guy and we're gonna like not back him, but we're gonna put our eggs in this basket. Do you know what I mean? And so my question is now, if you're not gonna go for this guy, I want to know who they're going to go for. Is the guy, the next guy they're going for, is he going to blow this Slot out the water? Is going to be 10 times better? Because if not, this has been an awful PR campaign. It's not looking good, bro. That's what
especially. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Just quickly before we move on, guys and girls, there's 224 of you in the chat. Only 44 likes. Please get over and smash the like button down below. It's free. It really does help YouTubers. Please get over to Southview Coys. Smash that like button for them. Smash the subscribe button for them. Help them get to whatever number they're looking to get to. go over to Perchy. I know Perchy's chasing down the 1,000 mark, so please subscribe to him. And please keep subscribing. I'm chasing down 6K, so please do get that button here. I completely forgot what I was going to say then. Perchy, I was like, Perchy, do you think the whole Arnie Slot situation is worse because it appears that we'd had it a few weeks earlier with Nagelsmann, where everyone was like, oh my God, this is happening. Nagelsmann's not going to Chelsea. He's coming to Spurs. And at one point, it looks like we're getting Rangnick and Nagelsmann, and you're going, oh my God, what a team. And Levy's woken up and he loves us again and he's going to give us what we need. And then it's like, no Nagelsmann, no Slot. And now Postecoglou is the bookies' favourite. So is that more the issue with what happened yesterday as opposed to it just being Slot?
A bit of both. So there is a combination in this part of actually when I think about it, because I sit back and I go, and Stell made a great point on the show yesterday, by the way, and when I was listening, he said Slot would have been the perfect manager for us. And it's saying me and you have said Slot would have been the perfect manager for us. He would have changed the culture in the sense of we would have played with younger players. And actually, it would have fit the model of Daniel Levy. You kind of sat back and thought it actually would have fit it perfectly.
Yeah.
We don't have to go and spend £80 million on players, set £100 million on players. We could get young, hungry bargains from the Holland, from Belgium, from the rest of Europe and elsewhere. And I sit back and think about this 15 million buyout clause or whatever the fee is. It's incredible. Daniel Levy is an absolute, it's a master at it, isn't he? That he won't pay the money, but he will demand, like for someone like Eric Dyer or Ben Davies, they'll expect 15 million quid for those players. And we all know they're not very good players in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I saw reports that we want £15 million for Japhet Tanganga, hardly played all season. Do you sort of see the sort of point here where I'm trying to make it? It's like
I was told yesterday that someone's going to pay 20 million for Ollie Skip. Who?
But this is my point though. Is we want that sort of fee, but then when we're talking about a manager that, and Ash, you made a great point. If he was here for 3 years, we're talking 5 million a year. This is a football club that makes maximum profits every single season from the Premier League, not necessarily the Champions League anymore, but from concerts, F1 deals, all this crap. We make all this money, but we can't spend 15 million on a manager that fits what we want. And for me, that's the bit that frustrates me, and the bit that will frustrate me, because I was banging on it, and wherever he is, Mr. Box Office must be laughing because he sits there and says, we need a manager now, but we're going to end up with Brendan Rodgers, and we probably will, and he'll start laughing at us in the group chat again. But the point with that is I've said, and me and you, Savva, we agree on the same sort of thing here. And when we say the reason why I was happy for us to get to the end of the season was because the manager we preferably wanted must be in a job. If we get to now June, mid-June, maybe even July, and the manager that we end up getting is a Brendan Rodgers, Graham Potter, any manager that's out of a job, then for me, I'm sitting going, what on God's name are we doing at Tottenham?
Hang on, let me counter that. Everyone thinks we agree on everything. Let me counter that, right?
Go on.
The only thing I would say to that, and I'll bring in Ash here as well, is just because the manager is out of work, right, i.e. Potter, i.e. Rodgers, i.e. Enrique, doesn't mean that manager goes, you know how many games left of the season? 7 or 8? Yeah, I'll come in with 7 or 8 games to go and pick up that absolute mess. Maybe those managers are saying, well, hang on, I'll start, but I need it in the summer when it's a clean slate.
No, because I get all that. I do agree. I do actually agree on that point. But my point being is if we're getting into the sort of latter enders of June and we still not got a manager.
I agree. Yeah.
Where I agree with what you're saying. Yeah. I said after when we sat Conte, I said I'd happily don't want another manager until the next season. I want a manager to come in and actually start again have a pre-season. However, my point being is if we get to sort of the end of June, so in a month's time, and we've still not got a manager, and then the manager we do then appoint was out of a job for the last 2 months, I sit back and go, what are we doing? We're either panicking, because that tells me then, let's just say it's Graham Potter or Brendan Rodgers, one of those two, let's just say. If one of those two becomes our manager at the end of, in the next sort of 3-4 weeks, we sit and go, well, they clearly never were number one choice, because if they were number one choices, they would have been appointed earlier on, at least at the end of the season.
I think that go on. Sorry, go on, Ash. Go on.
No. Just to add on to that, I just look at what Man United did when Ten Hag, who we did interview by the way, and thought he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
When he was appointed at United, as soon as he won the league, he came over. He came over to United, and everybody knew that Ten Hag was going to be the manager, even though Man United still had 2 or 3 games to go. So you could just see the levels. You could see the difference, the planning in place to bed in the manager. So he gets a look at the squad. He gets a look at the players. Whoever comes in now, I'm not sure if we're going to get that kind of pre-season window or enough time, because, again, we are looking at managers before directors of football. And I don't even know if we are getting a director of football because of the new data analytics, statistics-based models that we're trying to go for. So are we saying that, are they going to pick the manager? Is the data analysts going to pick the manager? Or do you know what I mean? Is the director of football even relevant anymore? Or because the directors of footballs they picked as well, they're all different. So you could just tell at the top level, there's no harmony, and that filters down, because even Højbjerg came out and said it. When you have when you've had a season when you've had 3 managers, and and there's no like culture at the top, then there's no wonder like results have gone the way they have. Not quoting, but it's more or less what he said.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, guys, it's. I think we can acknowledge now that whoever comes in, unless it's Nagelsmann, unless they somehow resurrect Nagelsmann, whoever comes in, we appreciate won't be the first choice, right? I think we get that.
Agreed, yeah.
I think this is mirroring the Nuno era, right? We're going down that route now. For me, guys, I want to talk about. I appreciate. I went through this yesterday with some other YouTubers, so I'd love to, like with Stel and with Brian and Danny, the Levy out ultras as they're known. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So this is as of last night. This morning, I don't know, 10 more managers might be on the list, but this is the odds for Spurs' next manager. Now, as always with the bookies, I take it with a pinch of salt, because there's so many factors that go into what the bookies look at. But are the first 2 names, Ash, there? I mean, let's talk Ange Postecoglou, because Ange Postecoglou, for me, we don't know how good a manager he is, right? Let's be really, really honest. I don't think anyone knows, because whatever happens in Scotland with Celtic, you say, well, you've got the best team. You're going to win the league every year. You're going to win cups. So we don't really know how good he is. And then you're going to get the comparisons of, oh, well, look what happened with Gerrard when he made the jump from Scotland to the Premier League. But there are managers that have done it the other way around, right? There are managers like the person who's second in that list, like a Brendan Rodgers. So is Postecoglou, Ash, in any way, shape or form, I'm laughing as I'm asking this question, in any way, shape or form, is this a reality that this is the level Spurs are at now, and that we're not an attractive opportunity to managers now? Yeah,
I think that is the latter. We're not going to be. It's almost like the narrative through the media. It's been reported heavily yesterday because how it happened. It feels like we are kind of like a poison chalice at the moment. Media is not helping the perception of Spurs right now. And if you look at outside clubs, outside fans, their perception of Spurs, they're saying like the same thing, about Levy. They're talking like, Levy's tight, and this is like the whole league. No, even when we were playing Brentford, they were shouting Levy in. So that's the perception of the fans. But coming back to your question about Rodgers, managing Celtic and then going on and doing bits with Liverpool. And then, he didn't do bits with Liverpool, did he? He didn't win the league. But he was a nearly man with them. But going to, if you look at Costa, before Celtic, he was in the J League. He won that. He brought Australia up from the ranks. He qualified them into a major championship in the World Cup, was it? Yeah, in the World Cup. So he has a little bit more experience than someone, say, like Steven Gerrard, because Gerrard went straight from Rangers and jumped straight into Prem. So
yeah.
Because he's got a bit of like maybe world football knowledge, he might be a little bit more credible. But if I'm going to take that away, and that's a big part I'm taking away, and I'm looking at just his football, I'm thinking, again, he's going to be front-footed, high press, what fans want. He has aggressively high line. He likes to play the 4-2-3-1. Again, when you're looking at the keeper, he likes to do the keeper sweeper thing as well. He likes his fullbacks to invert, both fullbacks as well to invert. And he likes one of his midfielders to drop in to make an extra free, which would be different to how we do it, because normally we like our fullbacks or our wing backs to push really high up. With this one, he likes his wingers to push high up, a bit like what Man City do. So, and obviously Pep managed in Japan in the J League as well, similar to similar to Angie, and the styles of football are very similar. So when he's in possession, you'll often see triangles because they like to build up from the back with the full-backs and the centre mids pulling wide, and that gives extra bodies in our own half so we can progress quickly up the pitch. So there's things that you look at, Ange, and can get a little bit more excited about with Rodgers, because with Rodgers,
are we harshly judging Ange? Ash, are we literally doing what we all do? Is it the lazy analysis of he's in Scotland, he must be rubbish? Is that what with a lot of fans?
I mean, the thing I could say about, because I'm trying to look at pros and cons. The cons with Ange, I would say, is obviously he hasn't done it at that top level, at the Prem level, so we don't know that ambiguity. And then on top of that, he got 11 players in. He 11 players that he got in for Celtic. They were all first teamers, and then in the January window, he brought in a further 4 to 5 players. Right. Now at Tottenham, is he going to get that same room to bin amount of players that we need to bin, which is about 250 million, and then on top of it, bring in a further? I don't know. We're not going to bring in 11 players. That's unrealistic. But is he going to be able to bring in 5 to 7 players that are going to be first teamers as well? And then in the January window, again, is he going to get that room where he's allowed to bring in another 2 to 3 players that he wants? And that's all within the first year. And that's why you saw the big change between, the year before Rangers won it, and then all of a sudden Celtic were dominant. They weren't just dominant. When they came to Rangers at Ibrox, they dominated. Literally had 60 to 80% of the ball against Rangers, who just won the league. So you could just see the complete turnaround of what he did. And I think the difference between Ange and Brendan, for me, Ange has got that kind of, he's got that fact that players might have to listen to. He commands when he walks in the room. He's got that commanding presence. He's got that physical presence. Whereas Brendan's kind of got that kind of nice guyish about him. So I'm not sure he'll command the same respect, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, listen, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Perchie, when we look at this list of managers again, and I feel like we've got delusions of grandeur at this point. Just in case people need to know what Brendan Rodgers looks like, there he was. Look, I feel like we've got a bit of delusions of grandeur because whichever manager is being named at the moment, Perchie, if they are not Nagelsmann, if they are not Slot, if they are not Enrique, people are going, who are they? They're rubbish. I mean, everyone's completely poo-pooing Brendan Rodgers, who I'm just going to make a case for all of them. But by the way, I did this yesterday and somebody turned around and was like, oh, Savva's first choice is Rodgers. It means that blows my mind how these don't work on some people. If I look at Rodgers, for example, Yeah, people can say, look at the last 18 months, it's not been great with Leicester. But you could also say, well, he won an FA Cup with Leicester.
Yeah.
You know, he finished second in the league with Liverpool and he was in a title race. You know, he's won trophies at Celtic. So this is an experienced guy that in the main part does play good football. You've got Potter, who was before this spell with Chelsea. I think most Spurs fans would have been biting your hand off to take Potter and is now kind of like kind of muddied water, so to speak. You've got Postecoglou, who comes across really well from what I've seen whenever I'm seeing him interviewed. His team plays good football. He seems to have a good understanding of world football. Why do we believe we're above these types of managers? And second part, is it because we've seen Jose and Conte?
The reason why our fans think that we're above the likes of Brendan Rodgers, Postecoglou, and Graham Potter, basically, is because you're right, but it's also because Pochettino completely changed our focus. Let's be honest. Before the sort of Pochettino sort of thing, and listen, we can all, me and you have debated this completely and stuff about the whole Pochettino. It's not about him. My point being is that he got us to a Champions League final, came second in the league. Yes, we didn't win anything under him, but our ambition became a lot more. So we kind of then we brought in the likes of Jose, Conte. So we ended up bringing in those elite managers. Also didn't work. I think you're right, by the way. I think with the likes of Postecoglou, Rodgers, Potter, I think realistically, guys, that we have to accept that's our level. No top manager, not even a half decent manager in that sense, is going to go and look at us and go, do you know what? That's where I'm going to be at. We're not going to go and get and spend another 15 million a year on another manager. It's not going to happen. And I think,
but this is the thing. But this is the thing, Perchy, for me. And I'll get both of you involved in this conversation. I truly believe, like, when we're looking inside at our own club, fans. This isn't just us. All fans, when we're looking inside at our own club, obviously we're more harsh or we praise more because we absolutely detest something or we want to be really tribalistic about it. When I speak to my mates, right, who, my mate at West Ham and Arsenal and Chelsea United, and the Liverpool, the full array of anyone who's won anything before we have. And if I sit down with them and I'm like, oh my God, I'd love Zidane. I'd love Nagelsmann. They're all like, take your Spurs hat off, Savva. Why? Why do you think you're at that level? You're an 8th, 9th place Premier League club that hasn't won a trophy for 15 years, has nothing coming through the academy. Yeah. You've got Harry Kane, and after that, not really a lot else. You've got no director of football. You've got an owner that has seen off however many managers. Why do Spurs fans then turn their noses up at the likes of Rodgers and Potter, who are at that level? And when they say obviously they don't say that in that exact monologue, Perchy, but when they say things like that to me, guys, I'm like, like I can't argue it. As much as I want to defend my team, and I can't argue it. That's what we are now.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's funny when our fans think that we are this grandeur because we've got a massive stadium, and I think people are not delusional is probably the wrong word, but I think people look at us and go, "Oh, we've got a proper stadium, blah blah. We've just had Conte." I think people need to. And not in a bad way, but I mean, we need to forget about Conte, Jose now. We have to look at us right now. And let's be honest. We all laugh at Chelsea. As a fan base, our fan base love to laugh at Chelsea this season. They've got battered this season. I think they lost 16 games all season. But let's be honest, they're no worse than what we are this season. The only reason we've got a few more points than they have, it's because we've got Harry Kane. No? If we didn't have Harry Kane, we'd be below Chelsea this season. I think that's a fair assessment, right?
Well, look, I watched Chelsea last night against Man U, and in the first half, it was painfully obvious that Chelsea didn't have a single bloke that could put the ball in the back of the net. And if they had Kane, if they had Son, Chelsea would be much better.
Yeah, and that's my point. I think when we all laugh at Chelsea, and our fan base, we love to laugh when we know, Savva, me and you have had this conversation 1,000,001 times, where we all laugh at Chelsea, but then they go and win something before us. Every single time happens. Let's be honest, Chelsea are going to win a trophy before us. So, but my point being is we can't attract a big manager right now. I think when people want all the big managers, and that's why I was a bit upset about the whole Slot one, because I felt he was the right middle ground for Tottenham. I wouldn't say he's an elite manager, but I wouldn't say he's a bad manager. So he's in that middle. He's won stuff at Feyenoord, and Spurs, he could rebuild Spurs. He could have done. That's why I was disappointed by it. But yeah, let's be honest. I think we're going to end up with Brendan Rodgers, if I'm honest.
For me, guys, it's a thing where I go back to like the Martin Yole days when we played somewhat attractive football, and also we kind of pushed up the league. We were finishing 5th, so we were on the cusp of Champions League. And I think from those days, I think our opinion of Spurs kind of started to go up from there. And then I think the push on was with Redknapp. When Redknapp came in as well, he brought in like, Van der Vaarts. People were playing that attractive football. We got into that top 4 race because we were always in that top 6 for a very long time. We were top 6. I remember when Aston Villa and Leeds were top 6, and we were just punching above them when Abangaho was playing those days. But then when you go past the Redknapp days, I remember after Redknapp we had AVB and we just sold Bale. And even then, I think the expectation was still quite high because we sold Bale. We got quite a few players in. I remember even before Bale, we had the famous 4. Remember, we had Darren Bent up front, Robbie Keane, and remember pundits.
Berbatov, Defoe.
The pundits were raving about Spurs because they were like, "Yeah, Spurs are going to really do something this year. Look at our strikers." So I think it's been almost like a snowball effect. It's been before Conte, before Jose, and then obviously after Redknapp, or after AVB, shall I say, we got the Poch era came along. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then Poch kicked it on a bit further. So we were a top 6. Forget about top 4. We were a top 6 club, and we were punching. We were getting into Europa or UEFA Cup, which I prefer the name of back then. But coming back to that question, when you're talking about Rodgers and Potter. For me, I feel like with Rodgers, he does well in his first 2 or 3 seasons and then dips. So the form dips on as it goes along. And I think it's because with players, the ideas might become stale, they get bored, and he doesn't quite mix things up as much. And then the same with Potter. I felt like his highest finish with Swansea was in the Championship, was 11th. Yeah. And then he went to Brighton with his highest finish being 9th or 8th. So he hasn't really got that level where he's taken his teams to that next level. Whereas Ange, you have seen him win titles with multiple clubs, and he has taken someone like Australia, who's not known as a footballing nation. He took them to their first World Cup, and that was a big deal. And that's why you see a lot of Aussies, they kind of respect him. But not just that. With Celtic, he went to his knowledge for the world football, and he brought through these Japanese players, youngsters that no one knew about. And when he brought those players in, now they're playing for their national team. So I look at Ange again, I'm thinking, if we're going to operate on a low budget, which looks like we're going to do, because we might not have that European football, or if we do, it's conference is not very high, maybe Ange can get through players that are virtually unknowns, which kind of suit Levy's model. And we're looking for that kind of, like I said, data-led kind of statistical, where we pick players out, then maybe the 2 would marry. And I think that might be better because, it might suit because he likes youngsters, he likes high energy, high press, He's ticking the box again. I'm not saying I'm just going from the 1 to 3 from what you brought out, by the way.
No, absolutely. Well, look, let's get Paul. I'm going to bring you in a second, mate, because obviously you've got some knowledge on Ange Postecoglou. Just before I do that, I've got a couple of super chats, so let me go through those. First of all, a big up to Phil P, leader of the Phil Army, because there seems to be hundreds of them. I said, if I become manager, would you three join my staff? I'll be honest, I would want to be manager in your setup, Phil. I don't feel like you're ruthless enough. I feel like I need to be the manager, but yes, I will join you wherever you go. Jerome has said, thank you, Jerome, has said, Postecoglou has won everywhere he went. He's even won the Asia Cup with Australia. The man is a bit like Wenger, a brilliant tactician. We'll come to you in a minute on this, Paul. Strasbourg Steve, the man who supports every club in the country or in Europe, which allows you to always be successful and unsuccessful at the same time, has said, I think you guys are going to end up with either Ryan Mason or Brendan Rodgers. Stick a $5 on both for the hell of it. I'm not putting any money on Ryan Mason being my manager. I just can't do it. I'm not doing it. A $5 won't even get me a pint in the UK, right? So no. And Jerome, big up Jerome, has said, let me ask you all this. Conte got sacked after his rant, but after all these managers coming out against Levy, how is all these bad PR not a sackable offence for Levy? Jerome, I want to ask Paul first about Postecoglou, and then we'll come back onto sacking Levy, because I feel like that's not going to be a 30-second conversation. So thank you to everyone. I will come back to that one, Jerome, and thank you to everyone. Please note, if you do want to put in a super chat, then 50% does go to the British Heart Foundation. I'll also be doing a 24-hour live in a few weeks for charity, where all the money goes to the British Heart Foundation. We've raised over 6,000 for the charity in the last 4 months. So we'll go again, see if we can get another couple of thousand. Please subscribe to Ashmatic, Southview Coys. Please subscribe to Perchy. Please subscribe to myself. And Paul, thank you. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm all right. Thanks for having me on, Savva.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Talk to me. Postecoglou, Paul, for one reason or another, is always going to have that attachment of, oh, he's in the Scottish League. He's never managed in a top European league. We don't want him. But realistically, most of us probably don't know enough about him. Can you give us a little bit of an overview of what he's like as a manager, his playing style, and the players that he likes to buy?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is exactly what the Celtic fans went through when they hired him. It was like, oh, what are we doing? Because they all wanted Eddie Howe. There was a big long talk about getting Eddie Howe into Celtic, and that didn't come through. Yeah. So pretty much all the Celtic fans were disappointed to get Postecoglou. I've been following him for about 20 years, since he was Australian youth manager. Right. He's had success in the Australian leagues, where we operate under a salary cap here, so it's a pretty level playing field. Not that it's really great football in Australia, and it's very hard for an Australian manager to break out. But he's been my number one choice from day one. So I'm probably going to go through the heartbreak that everyone else has gone through with Slot, Nagelsmann, Poch. It's going to be my turn to suffer Levy incompetence. But look, he is very.
You might not, Paul. Look, there he is. He's top of. He's the bookies' favourite for the job at what's that? 3.5 to 1, 7 to 2. There's some good odds there, right?
He's just a football guy through and through. That's the biggest recommendation I can give to him. He migrated over from Greece with his parents. And football in Australia is more of a kind of a migrant sport, very ethnic based, or it was when he was playing anyway. So it's very, very fiery. And it was a way of migrants to get together and, talk their own lingo and, just get through life, really. So it was very important to him. One of his coaches was Frank Puskás. So he's grown up with that style of attacking football all the way. It's four at the back. He might mess around with the players in front of the defence, but it's four at the back. There's none of this 5, 6, 7 crap that we play at the moment. In fact, you can find YouTube clips of him giving his players a right bollocking when they're passing backwards. He don't like it. He really doesn't like it. He would rather win 5-4 than 1-0 any day. Just some of the criticism, and I understand it because people in London really haven't heard much of him. I heard Ben and Sim say, "How come it's taken him so long to sort of break through?" And really, that's just the way it is with Australian managers. He was in the national setup, youth team and national teams for about, I think, 7 years, something like that, between the two. So that's taken a lot out of it. It's a hard ask for any Australian manager to get through, really. I think he's the first one to coach in Europe. Wow. And it's not because he's Australian that I'm blowing his trumpet here. I think the guy is superb. Like Kevin Muscat is another Australian coach.
Ex-Millwall.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rate it because he's a wanker. I would never have him at Spurs. He's a thug.
Yeah, I just remember his name. He played at Millwall for years, right?
Yeah. He used to just break everyone's legs. He was
I remember him.
But he really started winning the Celtic fans over really quickly with his first press conference, and straight away they could see what he was trying to do. Celtic were in disarray, and I think there's a bit of snobbery about the Scottish League as well. I watch it because I like watching Celtic as well, and it is competitive despite what people say. The Premier League basically boils down to 2 teams each year. It's the same in Scotland, and there's a lot more earthiness about Scottish football. It is very competitive, so I wouldn't put that against him. Alex Ferguson came from there as well, so he did all right for himself. It's just the way he gets football. He understands how important football is to football fans.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that might be the thing that why he won't join Tottenham, because he would know it's in disarray at the moment. But he also
could he do this, Paul? Could he do this? Could he connect the club with the fans? Because one of the biggest things at the moment, Paul, and I think we'd all agree on this, boys, everyone on this panel, I'm sure everyone in the chat who's a Spurs fan will agree that, the Spurs fan base is massively divided because the club is divided, because there's nothing there that we all, I think the only person we all identify with is Harry Kane, if I'm brutally honest. Other than that, the new manager that comes in, Paul, and I'll come to you after this, Ash, surely bigger than anything for them, forget trophies, forget Champions League, is first of all connecting the fans with him and the players again. Surely that's going to be the toughest job for anyone picking up this job.
And how do they do that? Through style of play, through just attacking intent. And I think, like, even if we play a big team and we lose, but we have a goal and the players give 100%, and there's some type of consistency. I think we've been lacking consistency of style of play and of culture, of identity, of knowing who we are. Like from like Mason, for example, I don't know if we're playing defensive football or if we're playing attacking football. I don't quite know the identity of it. So a manager, if he wins the fans over because we're playing a consistent style of football and we're playing a certain brand that fans can get behind, and we're excited, because at the end of the day, it's entertainment we're in. We're in an entertainment business. Right. Football is a sport. It's a team sport, and we want to see not just one man put the team on his shoulders and give him, them computer necks. We want a team. We want the load to be spread. Do you know what I mean? We want other players to step up. We want the goals to be spread across the team, and we want to be like looking forward to, Spurs versus United, not being like crapping our pants. Like, oh no, Brighton's coming. They could do us in. Do you know what I mean? We want to be able to like be proud of our team, because at the moment, like it's not being cool. Like people aren't wearing a Spurs shirt anymore. I'm not saying all people, but I'm just saying people might be scared to wear it, because it's embarrassing at the moment. It's embarrassing. I still wear mine, but I'm just saying.
You don't see many Spurs shirts over here, man. And that's the thing. It's if you want to grow the football club and make more money, then play better bloody football. And there's a world market out there which Tottenham haven't really tapped into.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Perchy, look, it's something we all want to see. Everyone wants to see the football. I think a lot of it is, do we have the players for that? And I think the next manager that comes in, it needs to very much be that they identify the players they want. And I'm not saying like 70, 80 million pound signings all over the place, but we've seen how Brentford have brought in good technical players like Norgard, Jensen. these players, I
Yeah,
don't know how much they cost off the top of my head, but I don't think they were anything like over 15, 20 million. Brighton, I saw something this morning. Let me just double check. The Brighton team that has just got into the Europa League, the 11. Anyone know what the 11 cost between them?
I'm going to say 30 million.
I say 55.
55.
Just trying to work it out. I'm just trying to work out the 11 that got through. So in goal, Sanchez was about three odd million.
Oh, mate, if we go down, if we do all 11 players like this, we're going to be here forever, mate. Shall I tell you? Shall I tell you what the squad costs?
Yeah, go on.
Minus one.
97 million.
Oh, okay.
Right. You think we spent 60 million on Richarlison, 60 million on Ndombele. We spent, 28, 30 million, whatever, on Emerson Royale. We've spent, we've spent, whatever we spent on Papa Sarr. We spent loads of money on him. We spent 40 odd million on Lo Celso. I mean, it's just, if we can find a manager that doesn't need that, and as far as I'm aware, and I know it's a slightly different level from Celtic to the Premier League, I'm aware of that, but Postecoglou, from what I've seen, has gone out and got his own players and has gone and got technically competent footballers that want to get the ball down on the grass and play, that, as far as I'm aware, Celtic haven't been spending £50 million a player.
His knowledge of football is just incredible. There were a couple of early press conferences when he was Celtic managers where the journos would try and, catch him up. This Australian, what does he know about football? And he just shut them down. He'd say, "Yeah, I remember him as a player. I remember when he scored 1-0 in 1978, and all this shit, that's in his head." Yeah. And that's how it. And he did do that. So he inherited a squad in disarray in Celtic. He got them playing better, and then he added his own players. And now there's quite a large turnover in the team since he took over. And they're just a well-functioning unit. He's got to tune out a Joe Hart, for God's sake,
Yeah. I mean, look, let's move away from Ange Postecoglou for the moment. If we look at, and I want to talk about another manager that is in that list, and let me just remind people who was in that list. Ruud van Nistelrooy is in that list, and Ruud van Nistelrooy has just had a good year with PSV. He's won two trophies, didn't win the league, but again, a relative novice in the world of management, but again, an experienced football guy. Would something like this suffice? Are we at that stage now where if people have got a year's experience, they can come and manage Tottenham Hotspur? Is anyone against it or for it?
For me, I'm not against it in a sense, but I get the reservations. But I sit back and I've gone, do you know what? Like, if you're going to give it to someone like a Ruud van Nistelrooy, I think as a fan base we have to understand that it's not going to be easy. It might be a rocky road with the likes of someone like a Van Nistelrooy in there, but it's all about time, isn't it? Let's be honest. If it means getting in Ruud van Nistelrooy as our manager, but the idea is to go long term. I said this along. That's why I said I wanted someone like a Michael Carrick. Done good job in the Championship with Middlesbrough. Got them from relegation conversations to get him into the playoffs. Yes, they didn't win that, but they got through that.
Who are we talking about? Carrick
at Borough. But my point is he's only had 1 year's experience. He's taken Middlesbrough from, as I said, a team that was down in the relegation battle to into the playoffs. I'm not against any of this, but as I said, the only problem is it only works if you commit to it. But my concern is that Tottenham, we're so trigger happy because ideally these sort of managers won't get us into the Champions League, and they won't. Like a Van Nistelrooy necessarily may not get us into the Champions League straight away, which is not my target, but it's what the target is at the football club. Football club is get Champions League football by hook or by crook. As long as you're in the Champions League, that is all that matters. And for me, I want to see a bit more. Like if it takes a few years to build something, so I wouldn't be against it, but I'd be against the sense of how we operate from board level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Ash, let me ask you on this then before I come to Paul. Is that half the battle, that no matter who the manager is, whether it's Postecoglou or Nagelsmann or Enrique, whoever comes in, that there is a section of our fan base that still believe we are a top 4 team. They still believe that year in, year out, it is top 4 or you've done a bad job.
It's just a painful realization for fans. They need a wake-up call. If we need another season where fans are starting to realize our level. So it might, for some people, they understand it straight away. For some fans, it might take a bit longer. And the manager coming in, if it's Ruud van Nistelrooy, a lot of fans, like, they're very black and white. They'll remember when he scored against us as a player. And it's not very fond memories of Ruud van Nistelrooy. And they might say, yeah, I don't want him. And then also, like we said before, it's the inexperience. It looks like he is like the 5th or 7th choice manager. Do you know what I mean? A bit like a Nuno appointment.
Yeah.
He has the difference between him and Nuno, he has won things. But again, very premature in his career. And is he ready for that big jump? Like, a lot of managers, they kind of need like a step up before coming to a team that's in disarray, that's so toxic. We need someone that, we can have patience with and we can build with along nicely. The only thing I'd say about PSV is that they finished second, better goal difference than Feyenoord. So they scored more than Slot's team with Ruud van Nistelrooy. He was a striker, so he's going to bring attacking football. And I do like their player in Xavi Simons.
Yeah, Xavi Simons, good player.
Yeah, I think he's quality. So if he came and could somehow convince him to come, like as a first signing, that would be incredible, because I think he is going to be a top player. Wherever he goes, I think he's going to be different. He's only like, 20, 21, and he's lighting up there for the reviews. But regardless what league he's in, I think he's a talent. But yeah, I just feel like a lot of fans, they're not going to be happy, whoever we bring in. Like you said, it's hard to look at. Not many fans look at things objectively and look at they look at the cons and they look at the pros and assess where we're at. Because even before Conte came along, we had Jose and we finished 7th. So that should tell you where we are. Do you know what I mean? The fact that we finished with Jose, that should tell you like we're out of the top 6 then. So we're pretty much in the same spot we were when he left.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Paul, let me come to you, and not necessarily about Ruud van Nistelrooy, but is there anybody else? I know Postecoglou is your favourite, but is there anyone else from that list or any other list where you think, yeah, that might work? I.e., at the beginning of the summer, sorry, we're not even in the summer, are we really? When Conte first went, one of the first names that I put out there and got laughed at a lot was I wanted Vincent Kompany. I wanted a young, hungry manager that would work for Pep, because I don't believe there's any negative to having been working under Pep Guardiola for many years. And somebody young, hungry, that wants to come in, play attacking football, build with young players and a winning mentality. But other fans want someone a lot more experienced. I'm not saying there's any right or wrong, but where do you fit with all of that?
I think it doesn't matter to me a manager's age or experience so much. If they're the right guy, they're the right guy. And young managers can hit the deck running. Old managers can fail. It doesn't matter. And as for Spurs being a top 4 club, I think Tottenham's natural state is a top 3 club winning cups, and it's only because we've been neglected by successive ownership from Scholar, Sugar, Levy that suppressed that. Before they came along, we were doing really well.
Yeah.
And really, the last 10 years, if we didn't have Harry Kane, we wouldn't have been top 4. Harry Kane has just been a band-aid and papered over so many cracks in this team. He really has. And once he goes, then people are going to have a rude awakening. If we don't have a decent manager who's managed to have an influence, then we'll see really the extent that the squad and the football side of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club has just been run into the bloody ground.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. I mean, it has been bad ownership after bad ownership. I mean, look, let's go back then, and I'll start with you, Ash. Let's go back. Actually, quickly before I do, I've got a couple more super chats. I'm terrible at reading these out. Phil Pierce said, "Big love, lads. The club could attract another top manager. Issue is that the word is out about Levy now, so top people won't work with him anymore." Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say about that is money talks, but I agree with you. Top managers, I think, won't want to ruin their reputation. And Jerome, back in again, thank you. I said, Ange Postecoglou went to Japan and won back-to-back league trophies with a sucker. I'd be excited if he was the manager and not because I live in Australia. Listen, I'm not completely...
I think he won one with Yokohama.
Okay. Cool. I mean, I'll take your word for it. I don't know the ins and outs. Listen, I'm not in the only person now. I'm at the stage where the only person I don't want people is Mason.
Yes, agreed.
I'm literally at that stage where if they put in Potter today, I'm not going to have a full on meltdown about it. If they put in Rodgers, it'll be like, okay, it's not something that's getting my juices flowing, but I've seen worse. You know what I mean? So I'm at that stage with Spurs now. But look, I want to come back to this comment. So Jerome said, Conte got sacked after his rant, but after all these managers coming out against Levy, how is all these bad PR not a sackable offence for Levy? Ash, I'm going to start with you on this. I mean, look, this is something that I think is easier said than done when we talk about sacking the guy that owns 30% of the company that own us. So I think we really need to take that into account, right? That sacking the guy that owns 30% plus sacking the guy that has done everything that ENIC have asked of him, not what the fans have asked of him. We've asked for trophies. ENIC asked for $1 billion football club that can print money like it's an ATM machine. He's delivered that. I'm just sitting on the fence. He's delivered that. Why would he be sacked?
From a fan's point of view, he'd be sacked because from
a club point of view, because let's be fair, the fans, we don't sack owners. We don't. We'd love to, but we don't. So why would ENIC and the board have any reason to go?
They wouldn't. Obviously, that's the answer to your question. They wouldn't. I know.
Right.
That's what you're getting at.
Right.
That's the way the question's posed. But I'm saying, like, on the metrics of if you're a fan, the fans' expectations and the club's expectations aren't marrying together. And the reason why that's a failure is because as an owner, you kind of want to create an environment or a culture where it's a sociable event where people can come, drink, eat food, and enjoy the entertainment that's there. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And they have fulfilled the drinks and food quota. Yes, they have got nice surroundings, so they've got that quota of it. But in terms of the entertainment and in terms of like a culture of the actual fans, because once the fans they're like the atmosphere and the soul and what keeps businesses running. Like if Google aren't having happy staff or Amazon aren't having happy staff, what you normally see is a business starting to fail, seeing a downward turn. Do you know what I mean? Any business, if you want to invest in them, just research basically how is the staff, how is the management, how is the CEO, how are they running? And if they're a happy business and they've got a happy customer base as well, you'll see that business grow and the dividends will grow, and that's the best time to invest in the business. But if you see a business where at the top there's fractures, there's divides, and that filters down into the different levels of management where we have none, and then it layers into the players where they're not performing, and then that layers onto the fans, then again it's not a happy then you'd say that ENIC have failed on that point, and that's the reason why we're getting 7th or 8th possibly. And then if you look further past that, if things carry on the way they are, we will no longer be 7th or 8th because we won't be able to attract the type of managers we want, and we will go further back because guess what? Brighton are moving forward. They look like a happy club. Yeah. Brentford, they look like a family atmosphere. The thing I'm talking about, that culture. If you go down to West London, they've got that kind of family. Like Thomas Frank talks about it constantly. If you saw the interview after Man City with the Zerbi and Paul Bloom came down, he was talking about he had to get a few characters. He had to make a few hard decisions, and the chairman backed it. So you can see there's this harmony, there's unison between him and the board and the chairman. And you see there's levels of management as well. So you can see there's executive owner, there's the owner, there's the the actual machine behind them. They know what they're doing. There's recruitment. There's different levels and layers of them. And then you just look along the list, like Liverpool, they're looking to get back into that top 4 race. Man U, Arsenal looking to go again after missing out on the league title. Man City are looking to strengthen again. We start to fall behind the pecking order, because even now, if you look at it, the teams that were around us, Aston Villa and Brentford, we lost against Brentford and we drew against them away, right? So we lost against them at home, drew them away. So they're around us. They're basically ahead of us. And then you look at Aston Villa.
We lost twice.
Exactly. So now you start to think, in reality, the teams that are around us we're losing against, we're now even further behind. I know Brentford are 9th, but because we lost and drew against them, there's potential next season that we're going to fall behind them, because they look like they're on an upward trajectory compared to us. So the thing I'm saying is, yes, right now, Enoch, on the face of it, and Levy look like they've done well, but or they performed, if you look at that metric in terms of dividends and profits and where they got us, top 4, but that is slowly moving away. And I feel like if I'm to
but I'll ask, is it slowly moving away? Because from my point of view, guys, and I've said this all along, as much as I'm Enoch and Levy out, and as much as I've hated everything they've done, and as much as I said I didn't think 15 years ago that building a stadium was going to make a blind bit of difference to what we do, Enoch told us, didn't they? Enoch told us from day one, this is not about football. But now, 20 odd years later, we all seem baffled by, oh my God, they just don't care about the football. But they told us this. They told us, and their revenue streams are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger because they're adding more and more attraction to Tottenham business, not Tottenham Football Club. And that, for me, is why I can't ever see a scenario in which Lewis or whoever calls Daniel Levy into a room and says, Daniel, I need you to step down. I just can't see it myself. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know who's going to make that decision.
Well, I mean, if it comes down to spreadsheets and financial figures, we're 50 to 60 million down because we didn't get in the Champions League next year. They're probably going to have to start writing off players' contracts. We're making a loss in the transfer market. And without fans, it doesn't matter all the revenues. You can have all the revenue streams in the world. Without fans, you just don't have a business. It's just not there.
But when are they not having fans?
Well, I guess
Paul, every game you watch, Paul, right?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, people like me, I've stopped going. I won't pay any money into Daniel Levy. I won't buy a shirt. I won't buy any merchandise. I mean, anything. I won't buy a mug, a pen. I won't buy anything. But you watch outside Spurs Stadium, right? When Sky Sports or whatever provider you watch go to the fans outside, the queue outside the club shop, miles long. Everyone's out there having a drink and a beer. So where are they losing the fans exactly?
Well, I think it. All right, okay. So I think it will start happening because we're continually crap and boring and hard to watch. But also, where are the new fans coming from? Why would a kid in Haringey think, yeah, I'm going to support Tottenham? We don't win anything. They can't afford to go to a game. I'd imagine that for some people, that big stadium is an object of some resentment. It's a bright, shiny thing on their doorstep that they just can't afford to be a part of. So I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I see the ground full every time, but I wonder how long that can continue. Maybe it might be another 5 years or whatever. But we've had 20 years of not much happening. So, and like I said about fans around the world, I see Arsenal, Man City, Man United shirts. Chelsea's on the wane because they're going back to being bang average. So in that respect, I think that I don't buy it that Daniel Levy is a good businessman. I just don't. I think it's overblown what he's done. But I think a few more hits on the.
Let me challenge that. I've got to challenge things, Paul. Listen, and again,
Yeah.
I'm leaving Enoch out. But surely the one thing we can say about him is, let's be fair, if Tottenham Hotspur went on the market today, they probably generate somewhere in the region of 3.8, 4 billion, something like that, purely because of the stadium and naming rights and Formula One and boxing. If you've taken any company from being 20 million or whatever he paid for it, 21 million, to 4 billion, surely we look at that and go, well, you are a good businessman. I think we get confused with, is he a good football businessman?
Do you think the business is hurt if we fall out of Europe, by the way? Just a quick question.
No.
Side note. You don't think the share price of the club goes down a bit?
I think if you're okay, let's be fair, right? Let me.
So why is he so hell bent on Europe then? That's my question.
Okay, but let's play a hypothetical game, Ash. Right? Let's play a hypothetical game, right? If I'm an owner, it doesn't matter my nationality. I'm an owner somewhere around the world, and I've got my pot of £4 billion here, and I'm hell bent on buying a Premier League football club, right? Now, if I go to Tottenham, if you look at it relatively, now hear me out on this. Relatively, you look at Tottenham, everything is in place apart from football players, right? Everything is in place. But it is. Everything is in place for a businessman to buy a company and start making money immediately. The stadium, if they buy the stadium off Spurs, instantly, NFL, concerts, boxing, the Formula One track under the pitch, the skywalk, the club shop, the training ground's amazing, hotels, cinemas, whatever, all of that is there. So what they need to do is automatically come in and go, right, let's build on the pitch. Okay? And that is just outlaying money. I know that sounds really simple. That is just outlaying money each year with the right team in place. Someone's going to Man United. Like, look at the Qataris that are looking to buy Man United. They not only need to buy Man United for whatever this 4 billion reported price is or whatever, they now need to whack in another billion or whatever to build a brand new stadium. They need to build a brand new training ground, right? These things take years and years. And we're set up amazingly for anyone that wants to come in and buy us and have a ready-made business to make revenue. That is why, for me, I don't think that any top billionaire businessman is going to look at Spurs and go, oh, but they're not playing Champions League football this year. I think they'll do what Newcastle owners have done and gone, yeah, we'll have them in Champions League in 2 years. Mm-hmm. That's only my theory on it.
I hear you. No, and I agree to some extent. But
I'm not saying it's right, Ash, by the way. I'm not saying I like it.
No,
I don't like it. I hate them. But
no. I'm not saying. Yeah, I do get your, because obviously for the debates, the debate show right now, what we're doing, so we're debating. But I'm just thinking about the brand itself. Because obviously they're pushing Europe hard for a reason. Why are they pushing Europe so hard? Why is it such an important factor? And how damaging? How much money are they losing? And I do get it, what you're saying, because obviously from an outsider, there's less work to do because the infrastructure is there. But I'm just saying, as a brand, is their share price coming down a bit because there's negative press, and they're not in Europe, they're outside that kind of top 6 elite team? Will that affect them in 2 to 3 years' time or 5 years' time? That's just my question.
Listen. I agree with you, and I think more than anything, it's about the greed. More than anything, I think for Levy, it's about the greed and the prestige. But if you got owners in, like for example, if we had Newcastle's owners would have come in and done what they've done at Newcastle, but on a bigger stage with Tottenham, with the stadium and everything, and we'd be back in the Champions League in no time at all. With the right owners, Europe can happen like that. Newcastle have shown that, right? Yeah. Brighton have shown that you can make it happen with a good plan. But look, I my only worry is, and Paul, I don't know what you think. Obviously, you live in another country and stuff, so it's hard for you to get to games. Is an understatement. But if people like me, I've been going for decades to Tottenham Hotspur. Literally got to the point this year where I've gone, nope, I'm not paying 70, 80 quid, 90 quid a ticket. I'm not going to pay £6, £7, £8 for a pint. I'm not going to. But I think all the while people are doing that. And the problem is, Paul, even if normal fans like me, you, whatever, Ash, Perchy, don't go, the tourist attraction that is Tottenham Hotspur now, the place is always going to be sold out. So I just don't know where we go from here in terms of get the owners out. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that fans like you not going, proper football fans not going, that takes away from the atmosphere of the place, and so people go there, and they won't think it's all that, will they? They're not going to go again. I mean, it's going to take time. It's it's a decaying over like maybe the next 5 years. Okay, yeah, now it's a tourist attraction, but in a few years, it's like, well, Tottenham, they're bottom half of the Premier League. They don't win anything. They always choke. There's nothing that tells you that it's a football stadium when you're there. I think over time it is going to be devalued. I really do. I think it's such a short-term money grabbing thing that ENIC's doing. They're biting off their hand to spite their face, or whatever the expression is. It's typical. It's typical rich billionaire behaviour. They're just looking at the next quarter. That's why we don't get top four. Sack the manager. But to have a long future, that's not the way to do it. Especially in football, it just don't work.
No, listen, I agree with you. And look, just like when you shine the bat sign across Gotham, Batman appears. You talk about Daniel Levy, and Brian Daigle drops all his commitments and jumps on a street.
Well, do you know what? I'm loving these intros I get from people now. Although when I was on Shelf Sides yesterday, Rez was on a rant and says, "This is nothing short of abuse," and then Nick brought me on. So it was kind of that wasn't the best of intro, but I only wanted to come on very, very quickly, so I do have a meeting in 10 minutes. I've been watching the show, amazing. But I want to talk about what Ashmatic said about Europe and the brand. Big up, Ashmatic, brother, and Paul and Savva and Percy. It is huge for him. Not so much, but you got to remember, when we had the Supporters Trust do the questions in January, and the first question the Trust asked was, "Can you please tell us what the immediate to long-term future is of this football club?" And the very first thing Mr. Levy said was, "Well, in the last 17 years, this football club has qualified for Europe 16. And it was like, well, thank you for that. I asked you about the present and the future. You want to talk to me about the past. Well, now the past is the future, because we're not going to be in Europe. Or there's a very, very big chance of it. And even if we are in Europe, it's nowhere near the financial rewards and gain. Do you think there's loads of corporates going, do you know what, let's get a box at Tottenham and bring our clients to watch Conference League football, to see the Moldovan 7th position? I think it's huge sponsorship wise, because who's going to want to go, yeah, let's go down for a bit of Conference League football. I think that part hurts us a hell of a lot. I think, do you know what, I know there's a very good friend of mine who does the Twitter Spaces. But he's been to previous AGMs, and he asked Daniel Levy, why is the cost of Tottenham so high? And this was years ago when they were doing AGMs. And why are you raising the prices? And Daniel Levy's words to him in an AGM was, "It is a privilege for you to be able to come and watch European football." that is verbatim. No words. He's been on my channel verbatim. What this man said in a meeting filled with people. You should be feeling it. You should be privileged. You are privileged to be able to watch European football. European football is everything to this man, because we can say, yes, that record of 16 out of 17 years we've been in Europe, for his ego and the arrogance of the man, getting at Europe, even if it is Conference League, is so we can keep that stupid stats like that.
Yeah,
that's the only reason he thinks, or why it is big to him.
Look, just quickly, let me just quickly do a couple of shouts out. I've got some super chats, and listen, first of all, what is told me today is that everyone here, none of us have jobs anymore. I mean, I don't know what's happening to the world. No one's working. We're all just doing our thing. Guys and girls, there's 378 of you in the chat at 25 past 12 in the UK. Please smash the like button. There's only 145 likes. please get over to Ashmatic for South Few Coys and smash the subscribe button and help those guys get to where they're going. Subscribe to Tottenham on Tour with Brian Daigle and Dari Kiramanu. Subscribe to Perchy at the Perchy TV. Just subscribe to anything Paul does because he makes some fantastic
and Mr.
videos.
Kaufman with Tottenham on Tour, who's in the chat.
Yeah, and Mr. Kaufman, yes, as well. Yeah, I always feel like Ben's. I don't know. I just Ben, I'll message you.
What other football channels have their own coffee house?
I know he's got his own coffee shop.
We're branching out.
So please, and by the way, I'm 6 subscribers away from 5,200. So smash the subscribe button. We've got a couple of super chats. The first one, Strasbourg Steve is back saying, I think Levy pushes relentlessly for European Champions League because commercially it opens the doors that aren't there if you aren't in it. Yeah, very similar to what Brian Daigle just said there. So thanks for that, Steve. And I don't disagree with you. And Crocodocs, big up. Thank you very much for the super chat. I said, on getting the owners out, we need to let them make their own demise. If they're as bad as they say they are, with how many the rest of the league is improving, they will devalue themselves. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And Nate has come in, who I'm guessing from that picture of Emil Smith Rowe, I think that is.
Smith Rowe, yeah.
I understand where you're coming from, Savva, and I don't want to be that guy, but Spurs are not that club. Do you really expect Spurs to challenge for a Premiership title? Now, I get this all the time. I'm sure you guys do, right?
Yeah.
Me bitching and moaning with my fellow Spurs fans about my club isn't me sitting here going, why haven't we won 23 Premier League titles in a row? Right? I'm not expecting Spurs to win a title. What I do expect after 23 years, Nate, is that we've got a competent youth setup, that we've got a strategy as a football club, that we've got a director of football who knows what he's doing, that we've got a manager that is on the same page as the director of football, that there is at least some communication between the owners and the fans after 23 years. And unfortunately, we've seen none of that. So I don't know if the other guys echo that, but I'm not asking for Premier League and Champions League titles year in, year out. I just want to recognise my football club like I did growing up. So apologies, that's too much to ask. And you did that on it.
I've got a call coming in. I'll be back, guys. I'll be back, as I would say. And as always, oh my God, I almost did it. And as always, Levy out. That was a close call, a very close call.
You know what's just happened there, haven't you? There's another stream somewhere else where they're talking about Levy, and he's
yeah, exactly.
Gotta go over there. Guys,
I said this on Sean's channel last night. So when I used to go and stand in the shelf, and I used to see Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles, Steve Perryman, Gary Mabber, Gaza, all these players, right? And we used to dazzle week in, week out, not necessarily challenging for titles. But you know what? I'm 50 now, and I'm just pissed off with just talking about those players all the time.
Yeah,
I love them, but I would just like there to be something now, or in the recent past, or in the something to be excited for in coming seasons, that we don't have to keep going back to those days. I mean, 81, 82, 84, 91, they were the years I was there. And I would just, not just for me, but just so that young fans get an idea of what Tottenham Hotspur Football Club's bloody about.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of fans don't really understand Spurs' identity pre-2004, maybe, Paul. A lot of people with throwaway comments about the 90s. I'll be honest, even when we were bad in the 90s, I still felt like I had more connection to the club than I do now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
If I'm brutally honest. And I think those things get masked by comments like, yeah, but Champions League football. All right, great. We were in the Champions League this year and it was utterly embarrassing. I don't know what you guys, I thought it was absolutely shambolic. That didn't make me proud. But look, let's move away from managers, because that conversation can go on forever. Let's talk about, we still don't have a director of football, guys. We keep talking about a manager. Surely that directive, Ash, is set by a director of football that in most clubs, the director of football outlasts a number of managers. Yeah. So that ethos comes from him or her, and they set the groundwork for what the club should be. How shambolic is it that we haven't even addressed that yet?
It's crazy because that kind of talk for me is kind of quieted down. It's been more about the manager focus, less about the director of football. And the director of football, they're the ones that bring the manager in. They're the ones that bring in the players as well. And like you said, managers don't have a long. No, the typical manager doesn't have a long shelf life. But the director of football is meant to outlast them. So the fact that we haven't got that in just screams louder that there's no idea of what we're meant to be or what direction we're pulling in. We don't know if we're looking for a win now kind of director of football or a director of football that kind of wants a long-term build, a long-term project where we're putting in place, looking at academy players like a pathway through to get the young players in. Are we going to just recruit high-level young players to get into the first team? Or do we want players that have had experience that are coming in to kind of play for the football club? Do we want attacking style players? Do we want technical players? Do we want defensive minded players? Do we want hardworking players? All of these type of things that are going over our heads. There's nothing to say that Spurs are looking for this type of director of football, and that's the scary thing about it. And that's what's going to make it even more drawn out for a manager, because if a manager comes in before the director of football, that's a problem, because are they going to be in the same page? Are we going to get the same thing again where we've got a fraction in the hierarchy? Do you know what I mean? Are they going to speak the same language as the top board?
Isn't that worrying though, Ash? And then I'll bring Perchy in afterwards. Isn't that worrying though that like you still see reports now of Spurs are interested in this centre back from this club in this country, and I'm sitting there thinking, how can we be interested in anyone when we don't have a manager, a director of football, a style of play? We don't know what cups we're going to be in next year. Like it's madness, right? Like,
and I think that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And that's the reason why I'm like, Levy's more than just a businessman. He thinks he's a football man because he gets involved in the football matters. And that's the reason why we had club signings in the past. And that's why we're getting linked to players right now. Because I feel like he's a triple threat, you know? He's the manager, he's the director of football, he's the owner, and maybe a fourth one. He might be like a scout. He might be a talent scout as well. He might be a talent scout as well, because he's the one that kind of looks at the players coming in. And he's like, well, I looked at you on YouTube, and I don't think you're all that. I prefer to get Richarlison in, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's got that kind of feel about it. And then on top of it, he's doing commercial deals in the background. You would have thought he would be happy just doing investment deals and property deals. But no, that's not enough for him. He wants to do a bit more and have a say in what players come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Perchy, it's bad times. I'm not seeing any links. I mean, we were linked with Ranić for a while. We were linked with Pinto from Roma. Yeah. Lots of fans chucking their own names of who they'd like it's Football Manager. Like, oh, we'll just go and grab Bim from there. I even saw today that quickly get their brain work quicker, that there was a director of football that was at, I want to say maybe Lille, or someone that's now looking for a job. I might be making that up. We've got to get that sorted, surely, like even before a manager. Isn't this like the fundamentals of running a club?
Agreed. Massively agree with that. Like, I think we, I sit back and I think, and I just go, why is it Tottenham can't ever do things right? We talk about it all. Scott Munn is going to be the man that's going to be heading up the sort of football operations, is what we have been told. Let's just believe that for now. And then we need a director of football to then appoint a manager, right? That's how it should work. But we're doing everything backwards, by the way. It's all scrambled, and we're going to get to a situation where it's not going to be done right. And you're absolutely bang on. I think now, if Slot's not going to happen, for me now, if I'm honest, I'd rather us go and appoint a director of football now that we want, and for whatever reasons that they're appointed, do you know what? I don't even care the reasons. I want us to play attacking, exciting football. But listen, if they bring in a manager that does the opposite, yes, I'll be bored. But then we got to go all in on it. Like, does that make sense? I don't agree necessarily. Like, that's why I wasn't a massive fan of Conte, because that pragmatic.
Oh, mate, I can't. I can't. I'll be honest. I want to get behind a new manager. If it's not a manager that wants to play football, I cannot
No, I
watch
get that.
more
I get that.
Jose Conte Nuno football. It's not in me. It's not this.
I
It's
agree.
not what this football club
It's
is,
not,
right?
It's not for me either. But I'm now at the. It sounds so depressing. Gosh, this is like a what's it, like a support group of Tottenham fans. I think we need to start that. This is therapy. Like
every morning, 11 o'clock, we'll do this therapy.
Just
It's like what
we
Rant
call
said.
I've,
Rant said
morning therapy.
I've got to shoot off. Just on the director of football, I'll leave you with this. I completely reject the orthodoxy that a director of football is necessary. I think if you've got the right gaffer, the director of football just becomes like an admin person. I don't think
that's a big shout, Paul.
I think it is, but I think that's
old school.
You look at the very best of teams, especially in England, or any like Klopp, Guardiola. Are they going to a director of football saying?
Yeah, Guardiola is. Yeah.
He's calling the shots. He's calling the shots.
Of course, he's calling the shots. But
That's the way it should be.
Guardiola works under. I'm going to butcher his name. Tiggy Buchenstein.
I think you call it better than I did there.
This guy, look what this. The thing is, we've got to realise what this guy working in tandem with Guardiola. Look what they've built, not just in the 11. If you look at Man City, what they've built as a culture throughout the club, the academy, and Liverpool have had a director of football. All of these clubs have had directors of football. Paul, I don't know which top club is winning across Europe with just a manager in play anymore. I
did a Google a while ago, big teams without directors of football, and it came up with 2, and they were both big, but I can't remember who they were. But anyway,
fair enough.
What do I know? I'm just some idiot anyway. So
thanks for joining us, Paul.
If you've got the right gaffer in, you don't need any of this corporate crap in the middle. So get engine now. And thank you so much for having me on, Savva.
Always,
see you, Percy. See you, Ashmatic.
Mate. Take care.
Spurs.
Love, bro. Hey, but just
Cheers,
to add on to that as well, Liverpool's director of football used to be at Spurs, and Michael Edwards, and he was working under Comolli at the time, and he was the analytical. He was driving the analytics, doing video analysis, looking at players, helping Spurs. But he obviously went off. Was the other guy, the guy that plays that he's at Brighton at the moment, Barber.
Barber and Ashworth are at Brighton, aren't they?
Yeah. He used to be at Tottenham as well. So it's mad. Like directors of football built at Tottenham leave and then do exceptionally well. Working under Levy, didn't like it, left. Paul Mitchell was another one. We're just building directors of football, and it's
just
now no director of football wants to come to us. You can't make this up, man.
It's got to change, lads. It's got to change. Look, I do want to wrap up the show in a couple of minutes. Listen, I am for the next month. I will be doing a morning rant, so we can have fans if they want to jump on and YouTubers jump on. And I'm sure as we hit Monday, we're going to start getting even more rumors and circulation about new players, managers, directors of football. So there'll be a lot to talk about every morning. I want to say thank you very much to, first of all, Ash. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Love your insight. Please get over and subscribe to Ashmatic and Southview Coys. Subscribe to Perchy. Perchy, big up. Thank you for coming on. Get over and watch Perchy. He's just released a video this morning. Please get over there. Show some love.
It's going live in about 20 minutes. So if people want to jump over there and we can all premiere it together.
Perfect. If people can do that.
Video as well. I've got a video out too. And it's just about transfers that I would like to see at the club or see possibly happen. I kind of need to get it out there a bit more. So guys, if you are interested in some hopeful transfers, rumors, then give it a watch, man. I appreciate the support. And again, thanks for having me on, Savva.
No. Everyone, please get over, support all the Spurs channels. Everyone's it. I honestly, I say this all the time. I think like people think that we just jump on a computer and go, but there's so much that goes on in the background to getting a YouTube channel going, buying all the equipment, thumbnails, speaking to guests, WhatsApp. It is very time consuming. So listen, thank you very, very much Stop winding me up with this Walker thing. You do this every show, proud to be. Look, guys, I will see you all again over the next couple of days. Thank you very much. And let's play a nice little video out that reminds people that sometimes people in the world of football win things.
And here comes Hurst. He's got some people are on the pitch. They think it's all over. It is.